about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward.
To infinity and beyond!
Some people without brains do an awful lot of talking, don't they?
It's classified.
You talking to me?
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
I can't lie!
Expecto Patronum!
Entertainment X.
You never know what you're going to get.
For the past month, I've been out on Long Island at Gateway Playhouse performing in Cabaret the Musical. And throughout this process, I've learned a lot about very interesting cast members and the show, which has such a timely message for many Americans and many people throughout the world to see and remember World War II and the events that led up to it specifically. So for this episode, I actually sit down with some of the cast members of Cabaret, 7 of them, and we have a very in-depth and wide-ranging conversation. We start with the content of the show and messages we believe that the audience should leave with, etc., and we move into the language in which you speak to yourself, how they start their days, their views on life, their views of happiness. We also discuss diet and exercise. So I hope you follow along. This is super interesting, and this is actually my first group conversation, so it's a very different dynamic than the usual episodes. I hope you enjoy this episode, and keep on keeping on. We're back with another episode of Entertainment X, and today with me are some of the select cast members of Cabaret at Gateway Playhouse.
Hello.
So we have 7 of us in the room, and for anyone listening, just so you can follow along, they're going to say their names as they answer the questions. Before we begin, they're each going to say their name and a role. So we'll start with Steven.
Hey, I'm Stephen Grant Douglas, and I play Cliff in Cabaret.
Hey, I am Taylor Habershaw. I'm playing Fritzy, part of the ensemble of Cabaret.
Hey, I'm Stephanie Israelson, and I play Rosie.
This is Lauren Renahan here. She plays Helga.
Hey, it's Mark Ryan Anderson. I play Victor.
My name is Jane Papageorge, and I play Lulu, and I'm your dance captain.
Yes. It's Delaney Love, and I play Frenchie.
Delaney Love. Guys, thank you for sitting down with me today on your day off. I know we only have one show today, so it's like a lot of free time, but thank you for spending it with me. We were talking right before we started recording what to say on mic checks, and I noticed that when we do mic checks in the theater even, I'm always like, what do I sing? Because like for some of the ensemble members in the show, we only say money over and over and over again. So like what to say for mic check was such a, I don't know, it's just funny that we were talking about it. So we're going to jump in here. We're going to start with the show of Cabaret. Chime in if you have any answers, and we'll just take it away, all right? So I want to start with the musical. What, to you, is the purpose of this musical?
I think the purpose of doing this musical at this point in time in our country is kind of showing that you can't be blind, you can't let... So this musical shows the seeds of hatred and of the Nazi Party. And I think that that's why this show is important, because we all know what happened once the Nazi Party came into power, but it's important to know where it came from. And it's not that everyone just came about wearing their armbands and going like, Heil Hitler. It starts small, and it starts in social settings. And it also starts through the changing of art as well. And I think that's also what Cabaret does too. You see how the acts change to reflect society. And I think today we're going through change in our country, and people are more emboldened to say their thoughts, whether they're racist, anti-Semitic, anti-Muslim, and so on. But people are emboldened now, and we have to think about our history, and we have to be like, what can I do? What should I do? And I think this musical is important just to be like, because I think everyone also likes to think like, oh, well, if I were around when the Nazis were around, like I would have stopped them.
I would fall for that.
I would have done it. And I think, I'm going to fall for that trick.
Yeah.
And so what I think this musical does is it shows like, well, you've been in a setting, you've been at a party, and someone's maybe said something that made you uncomfortable, made people around you uncomfortable. And this is not not happening now. And I don't like saying like, oh, we're like, it's going to be Hitler again, because everything's different. But I think this musical is showing like we have to be aware of what's going on.
Why do you guys think it was written for like the 1929 era of World War II and not closer to like 1945? Because I was thinking about that. It's really interesting that they focus on that, the very beginning,
right,
not the inevitable.
Steven here. And I think that the reason they focus on the time that they do is because it's important to see something before it's too late. It's important to see, like she was saying, the seedlings, the tiny ideas, the nuances, the inflections that can be viewed as harmless. And it's important to identify them before they become harmful. I'm probably going to speak in cliches today. Forgive me. You guys are not surprised. But it's all fun and games until it's not. Yeah. And I think that's really what our musical is, like the shape of it is so specific. Like it's literally all fun and games until you can't sweep it under the rug any longer. And I think that's why it's not like 1937 or 1941 when Germany invades Poland. It's like, or Pearl Harbor, you know what I'm saying. But it's that awareness, and tenacity, and like, and I can't think of the word, but speaking up for when you think something is not the way it should be, when you think someone is hurting someone else, regardless of if they affect you directly or not. So those are my 2 cents.
That's a good answer. No, that's a good answer. Because I was thinking about Sally Bowles' song the other day where she's singing Life is a Cabaret, and she talks about Elsie, her friend, and people would snicker because she was on drugs and liquor, but she was happy once she was dead. Was that what that was, though? Like you're only happy in death? Do you know what I mean? Yes. Or am I missing the goal? Am I missing the whole point of that? Because I stand there and listen to it every night, and I'm thinking about this stuff, and I was like, why would why would this book be written? Why would they, does that stand out to anyone?
Mark Ryan here. I think with Sally specifically, I think that song is kind of a declaration of, she's a very specific type of person when an event like this occurs. When the shit hits the fan, like she's the type that's like, I will believe what I believe. I will have faith. I will be blind. She is a completely blind character, and she is choosing wholeheartedly to do that. When she talks about Elsie, how she's like, she was a party girl. She was a lady of the night. She would party, and then she died. She died early, but she died doing what she loved, like completely blind to the problems around her, completely blind to the people around her, just having a good time and doing her. Yeah. So I think for Sally Bowles, that end of the show, that song, that like torchlight song, is her declaration to, like, I still don't give a shit what's happening. I have to be me. I have to be this star. I have to be this idea of who Sally Bowles is. And it ends up her losing her baby, her losing probably one potential at a normal life she had, and ultimately everything. Funny you say this, because the other night I was watching the scene between you and her, and Stephen and Courtney, and Sally and Cliff, and just so everyone could follow along. And you're saying, we got to go, give me an hour, oh no, sit down. And she's like, we can't uproot our lives that quickly. But that's like all she's been doing her whole life. So why is she all of a sudden saying that? Like, what's wrong with going to America versus switching between London, Paris, Berlin? You know what I mean? And these are the things I was thinking about, because then I had the thought of like, does the show end? Is there an ending? I mean, we know there's like an ending, but like, does the show actually end?
I also think, Steph here, it's a little, maybe there's more abstract, but it's kind of like the death of art. So I think that's what it is. She's like, I'm just going to go out and I'll ride this wave till I can't anymore. But when the Nazi regime comes, with communism, with any dictatorship, art dies always. And that's free thinking, that's creativity, and with it also comes a diverse amount of people and sexuality. And so I don't know, I also think in a more abstract way. That's what the song Cabaret is.
I agree. No, I can see that.
To go back to your point, Stephen, again, about the uprooting of the lives and changing things so rapidly. For me, I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I think Cliff and Sally are living in this life that neither of them wishes to be in. And though they're trying desperately to convince themselves and each other that they do, they really don't. So when you're like experiencing life and you're going through the motions and you're trying to make the most out of something that you essentially don't want, it's not going to work, regardless of if it's easy or difficult or possible or impossible. It really, I think, like, if you dig deep inside, it's like, that's not really what I want. Like, she doesn't really want that, and neither does he. So it's like, it's crazy because they're both trying to do something that neither of them wants to do. And we do this daily in our lives. So it's just like an extreme situation of what every listener and actor in this room experiences, in life.
Yeah. So then in terms of the Holocaust, World War II, I know, and this is like, we're getting a little bit away from the show itself, but Hitler was incredibly good at using radio. And that's how he got everything to happen. Like, he's got a terrible personality for television, but his personality is perfect for radio. And they slowly started. No, but it started. But if you read about it.
Got a great face for radio.
I don't think people. Delaney doesn't have a mic, but she said just like yours.
Says the guy on a radio microphone.
Oh, shoot. I can say it because I am what? No. But it's that idea of people following along blindly or not blindly because they think they're actually being educated properly. You guys are all very independent, each and every one of you. Just performers in general. You have to be independent. You got to do your own thing. You can't. There's no really flow to go with. You got to live your own life to follow this career path. How do you guys dictate when to go with the flow and when to steer clear of something that is maybe something you shouldn't be doing, or a belief or a thought that you shouldn't be following? How do you sift through the media, and how do you sift through what you hear in order to stay an independent thinker? I know these are heavy questions, so like pauses in the conversation are totally fine as you think.
I think there's no...
Who are you?
It's Delaney. There's no excuse to be uneducated today. There are so many ways to get information. So it's easy to be a free thinker. As much as people think, oh no, like all the media influences you, you can do your research. You can listen to all of the media you don't agree with. You can listen to all the media you do agree with. You can find all the outlets, listen to them, compare and contrast, and figure out what works for you, how that fits into your belief system.
Yeah.
And I think it just takes work, and people want to be lazy.
You have to want to look for it.
Yeah.
You got to want to look for the information.
If you don't look for it, then you're just, oh, sure, I'll just listen to what this person says. And then you're not an independent thinker.
Yeah.
You don't have any beliefs at that point.
Yeah, because you have to choose to keep an open mind.
Steph here. I think that's also so hard because like so many of our news outlets now are opinions. Like everything's an opinion. And even like your newspapers, they're all leaning one way or another. But like, don't be an idiot. Like, don't read just scam. Like, you know what are good resources is. You know the New York Times. You know the Washington Post. If you lean more that way, like
various Twitter accounts.
Yeah, and you know, like you don't know when things are a scam. And the internet, I think, has made it much more complicated. And also, I think people see a headline and everyone's quick to talk. Everyone's quick to make an opinion now and just share it. And I do think that that's hard because you see a headline, you're like, yep, got it. Here's what I have to say about it. But yeah, I think it's just don't be a lazy idiot. Just read. Just listen to a podcast.
Read.
Stephen here really quick. And I think that a lot of those sources are fueled by money. Yeah. And that to go back to the show, money, 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 money. I'm the one person that doesn't sing that, but
and you know the lyrics.
I do know the lyrics, but it's. I mean, the show was written in the '60s. Like the early '60s, about the '30s, like you were saying before, and yet it's still a concept that we can't shy away from. Money fuels ideas, it fuels corporations, and they fuel the media, and the media, feeds off of that. And so whoever has the deepest pockets is going to be the information that is readily, easily, lazily accepted by the masses.
Yeah. And so in terms of this show, staying with Cabaret, I feel like a lot of people leave the show, and what we said earlier is like they leave the show and they're like, oh, I would never fall for that. That's blatant hatred. That's just hate. I mean, that's hatred. I don't have a hate. But then, etc. What do you think? What message do you think the audience is supposed to leave with at the end of the show? Is it simply just hatred? It's got to be more than that in my mind. Anyone?
Taylor here.
Taylor.
Hi. I think the audience, what I have gathered is that they're kind of almost self-reflective, and like it's so easy to be played, and if you, like our MC, he's like a little puppeteer, and he's getting on our good side and treating us the way we want to be treated and talking to you the way you want to be treated. You feel good when you're around him, and in the end,
he played you.
I mean, but you still respect him to a sense. Like, can I say what he is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So he's Hitler in the end. Our thesis is that he comes out as the leader of the Nazi Party and is the leader of all hate. And, but in the beginning, he was just this fun-loving guy that everybody wanted to be friends with.
Yeah.
And he just manipulated everybody to follow what he thought was what was right. So, I think the message to get to our audience is that it's very easy to be played by people of power.
Yeah, and to pay attention. Yeah, because I know there's so many more themes in this show than just hate. For sure. So many being played. I can't articulate them. Yeah. Does anyone else have any other?
Real quick, Steven here. I said this before, but I'm just going to reiterate it. Awareness. So being played, yes, but being aware that someone is trying to play you.
Yeah.
Because it's almost impossible to see it coming. So good luck.
Yeah. Well, do you have?
I think as far as Mark Ryan here, I think as far as a theme for the show is so interesting because every single one of the major characters in this, the 7 or 8 main characters in this, has a different coping mechanism for the events changing around them. So you see this play, you see this arc for all of these 8 characters, you see their beginning, middle, and resolution, and then by the end of it, they all come up with a different solution. So it's less of as a piece of theatrical work, Cabaret is less of like if this happens, do this, and more like everybody had a solution, and we're still not sure who came out the victor and who came out. I mean, we're pretty sure who came out not the victor, but it was most of the world. But I mean, it's an interesting piece of theater. I don't know if we go to it. I don't know if everyone's different in what an audience wants, but I don't know if I were directing Cabaret and the direction under Larry Raven was so spot on and wonderful, but I don't know if I would do it with a specific theme in mind, so to speak. I don't know if I would put on Cabaret with the explicit intention to teach, but more so to teach the empathy of all the different ways that we may not have forgiven people for coping. Like an interesting point is, not to bring it back to me, but my character is a party boy the entire show. Then at the very end, when he's about to be captured, he makes a split-second decision and he calls out one of the Jews, and it's a betrayal. But it's like a knee-jerk reaction. It's
Judas.
like, oh, Yeah. Well, Judas, it was even a thought out transaction, arguable, but with this, it's there are people in that, like, how do you forgive someone who did something terrible out of survival in a split-second decision that was completely unconscious?
Fight
there
or
are people
flight.
like that. Yeah. There are people like that. Peanut Gallery, Steven over there. But yeah, I think for me, Cabaret's theme is just like an acceptance and an empathic, a gain in empathy of all the different ways people deal with something like that, a world war, a Holocaust.
Yeah. Because I was thinking about it too with the terms of like, I mean, I didn't count them, but there's a good half a dozen swastikas on the stage. And it's like almost instantly desensitizing to me. You know, too much of something is like you stop tasting chocolate after the first bar. I know from experience. No, but like it's that idea of like, research. But it's like desensitizing. So what's the purpose to desensitize? Are people desensitized? Has it been long enough? I heard a freaking statistic the other day that like most millennials don't know the Holocaust existed. Haven't heard of it?
That just gave me chills.
You know what I mean though? But it's that education, and that theater can educate. So let's continue on. We'll continue on here. This is a good conversation, guys. Thank you. So let's talk about specific characters, because we have some principals, we have some ensemble members in the room. Specifically for the ensemble members, where did your creation of your characters come from? Because before we were recording, I mentioned I don't think anyone really got much, like obviously you never have time to sit down with the director or the choreographer and talk about your ensemble characters' inspiration, but you guys are also specific and so unique. And I'm kind of curious, was it thought out? Did it just flow through your choreography choices? Anything come to mind there?
Hi, it's Jane. I kind of just, the microphone was put in front of me, so I grabbed it. Okay, here I go.
Here we go.
Things are happening now.
Yes.
So I play Lulu, and what's funny is we all started this process kind of in the dark about what specific characters we are. So they have all of the Kit Kat Club people, boys and girls, have specific names. And when we started our journey, our director was working on another show the first day of rehearsal, so we didn't know which part we were assigned. We just started choreography. And as a dancer, having things put into your body first sometimes just makes, like, you create the atmosphere of the emotion of your character. And I started to realize that I'm always like in pretty close proximity to the MC, and something just came over me one day, and I realized that the way he and I behave and like follow each other in the show and counter each other reminds me so much of Magenta and Riff Raff in Rocky Horror, and how she's kind of like his right-hand man and like a thug, like his backup for things. Whenever he's leading the Kit Kat people around and like trying to shape Sally and Cliff's lives around them, she's always just like in the darkness behind him, like egging him on to do these things. And when you have a counterpart in a show, even if the audience isn't aware of it, like somebody having a shadow behind them, for me, it added some depth to Lulu, who's like, her only fact was that she has Rosie as a girlfriend, and that's my favorite part of the show, obviously, because of her rosy cheeks. But yeah, it's looking for the little things that add to your character, and even if it's just a physical thing or a single line you have, but the audience will sense it. If you believe something about your story, if you feel validated in your own personal truth, the audience will just feel it subconsciously without knowing.
Yeah, and it just ends up playing into the storyline even further. Yes. So, because it's so funny, because I notice a lot of the last few shows I've done, it's a lot of like, and I'm talking to the cast members, and they've done dancing first. They're dancers first, and then through these rehearsal processes, they become actresses and singers out of necessity. So it's always so interesting to me, someone who comes from like competition dance. I imagine there's choices being made, but not on this level of like, I mean, these are like specific character decisions. So it's so fascinating to understand where that comes from for you guys. And I imagine it's also influenced by the hairstyle that you're given. You might not have a choice to.
No, always Steph here. The costumes always, like, once you put those on with the costumes and the makeup, and also, like, we were given, like, a skeleton of what to do with the makeup, and then we kind of filled in what our character would look like. I think that's when we all fully, like, blossomed out. And I also think, like, I love looking at the audience during our Kit Kat numbers. I love it so much.
Yeah.
And that has informed also, like, of those like transfers of energy, almost like who Rosie is as well.
Yeah. Does anyone else want anything else? Yeah. We have a latecomer who's going to join us here. You want to say your name and what you're playing? Join the conversation.
Speaking of character,
join the conversation. This is Josh Canfield, and I play the MC.
Yes, you do. Thanks for showing up, Josh. Okay, so let's see. Were there challenges in the production for any of you? And if so, how did you deal with it?
Well, it's a really horrible cast. They're all really annoying.
Yeah.
So the challenge was getting over the fact that they were just, ugly people inside and out. Obviously, I'm kidding.
Oh, Lord. No, I think it's always interesting when you're doing rehearsal in summer stock. Everything moves so quickly. And especially not having the director for the first 2 days and not knowing what character you're playing, but learning choreography and then things moving on the fly. Because I made this mistake the first time I did the summer stock, writing down everything as soon as I learned it. And now I'm like, oh, wait, no, don't write anything down because it all changes so damn quickly. Love the process.
This is summer stock?
Love the process.
This is dinner theater, baby.
For sure this was just off Broadway.
We're actually making our Broadway transfer.
bring the dinners with.
So then, professionalism in the theater. How has your professionalism grown through this process and production?
Hi, Taylor here. So I was one of those people that Clay was talking about earlier. Dancer first, actor second, singer third. So this is actually my second musical theater production. So being in a professional room watching equity actors just work and know their shit, like in and out, and making choices without overstepping the director ever. Watching Josh, he was like, well, what if I tried this here? Would this fuel this this scene in this way? And you always came in with ideas for your character, which was so smart. And Larry would have his input. Well, yeah, but adjusting it here and just just watching people that have been in the industry for a long time.
Not that long, though.
Not that long. But you've been trained.
I still look really good.
You know, it's just you come in ready to work and you work hard, and it's from a humble place as well. So that helped me develop my character Fritzy as well.
Yeah.
Oh, Fritzy, you're so pretty.
Yeah, it's interesting when you have because if you have for instance a supporting or ensemble role where you're playing a few roles, for instance, so I didn't even tell anyone what I'm Max, I play the club owner. I'm Clay. Hi everyone. And I was of the and we cannot forget Helmut, and we cannot forget the gorilla. We cannot forget the gorilla. And my idea with it was because I didn't want to bother Larry with all the stuff he's doing, that I just took the character so far until he came up to me right before he left and he was like, it's good, just bring it in a little bit. Because it's give them too much and they'll pull you back instead of not giving enough.
Absolutely.
And then they're
That's
maybe that's all they
have.
have. Yeah. And so that was my kind of process with it, to not overstep a boundary of talking too much about a character who has 5 lines. But you want to do a good job. It's very interesting. Even Courtney, too, who's not here today. She's
phenomenal.
She's
phenomenal.
Yeah, just her level of preparedness is just in-frickin-sane.
But I want to Steph here. I want to piggyback on that. It's even when you're an ensemble member, you should be doing the same kind of character work as if you had the whole book yourself, as if you were the MC, you had the material of the MC or Sally Bowles. As if you're a principal, you should still have that character arc and journey and know exactly who that role is. And I think this cast did unbelievable job of that. Like, everyone is a different person on stage, and like noticeably. And everyone that I've had come to the show has said that. And I think that's also cool that we all look very different too. And and I think that's also the beauty of Cabaret is it's not, for an ensemble, it's not, you know, a line of tall, beautiful women, which is an amazing show and I always pay good money to see. But this is, especially for an actor, more just enriching and fulfilling to do.
Yeah. Everyone's so unique. All the types are just so unique. All right, so I have 2 more questions here, and then we're going to move on to the next section. Do you guys have any favorite moments of the show? Moments created on stage? Anything that stand out in your mind? Just fun to talk about.
Steven here. I learned a new skill doing the show, which is how to consume a raw egg.
Oh.
And the very first preview got applause for doing so in front of a theater full of people. And now the applause has morphed into ooh or gasping, which is definitely my favorite moment in the show.
Yeah,
not to be self-indulgent, but it's a good one.
I don't know if I could do that. Ooh. No, I like, but then between the two of us there, where I light your cigarette when you first come in.
Yes.
Not at all blocked to happen.
No.
But it just happens when you're living in the story.
Yeah,
I think that's so cool when you can come up with moments because you're living so truthfully in the story.
Delaney here.
You're going to talk about our lift, aren't you?
No, I'm not. One of my favorite points is I'm not on stage at all. Actually, I'm down in the basement. And, but there's a fight in the show. And there's some nice music that goes along with it.
We're talking about offstage.
Literally like a jazz. And there's a fight to the jazz music. And it's just every hit is to like a beat. It's my favorite thing ever. It's a jazz fight. It's a jazz fight. And it's so entertaining. And we sing it downstairs every day. We snap to it. Yeah, that's my favorite part. I hope you guys are being safe up there.
It's on Instagram
Clay's
if you
busy.
need it.
Clay's busy roughing some people up.
Yeah.
Jazz stomp.
I've never done fight choreography to a drum before, and that feels very unsafe every night because I'm like, do I go now? And then it's like late or early. It's, yeah. Are we good with that? Anyone else have anything they want to add in there?
In Mine Hair, it's a dance number where we're already groomed to hate men. There's one part where the ensemble members go and grab a chair. It's so slight, but Kyle's foot is on another ensemble member. His foot is on my chair, and I just give him the nastiest look, rip it out from underneath him, and he falls, and I just feel very powerful in that moment. So that's my favorite moment in our dance number.
I've noticed that too. I just love it when these things come up halfway through, or not even halfway, like halfway through the first week, and all of a sudden there's like these, I start yelling at Lauren when she's doing the kick line in Mama. I'm like over there with my cigarette, and I'm like, higher.
You said that, and I was like, is that for me? And I like kicked past my head because I was like, no.
Well, there's actually a story behind that because in the beginning of the
Hi, Lauren.
Hi, this is Lauren.
Lauren.
She plays Helga. I had a slight injury before opening. So I kind of hurt my hamstring. Not used to kicking, been singing. So I'm more of the singer in the ensemble, not so much. I don't spread my legs very well, you know?
Yes, she does.
But I give great head. Face. I give great face.
Oh, yeah.
So during, Don't Tell Mama, we do have 2 fan kicks to do, lovely, beautiful fan kicks, and my left is so much more gorgeous than my right, but because of our relationship work, you've given me a reason to take it easy on my right leg and then be a little bit more impressive on my left.
Justified.
Okay, I just have to get this in. That's what she said.
Jane.
My name is Jane. Hi. And I just wanted to say that my favorite part of the show, I can't believe I forgot until this moment, is obviously 2 ladies because because, not just because I'm in it, and I love you. But originally, it's written to literally be two ladies and the MC. And then Roundabout, I believe was the first, this is what they did. They did one guy and a girl. So it's like, haha, two ladies, but one's a dude. And Larry freaking Rabin is just so ingenious. Like the moment he told me about this idea, I was like collapsed on the floor. It's so funny to me because we slowly circle out all the Kit Kat people until it's two guys and the MC. And I just love the idea of like expect the unexpected and really pushing our audience to be as uncomfortable as possible. And we've had a wide range of audience members that just do not approve this message in the slightest or give us like a polite clap at the end. But last night, okay, you guys, they were really lit, this audience, and they loved it. And they were like shocked every time a guy came out. And I love that we get to add something special to the lore and legacy of Cabaret because people have always pushed the boundaries with this show and try to find new ways to like ingenuity to like make it more interesting and different than the last. And I can't believe Larry did it. But whether it's our MC turning into Hitler or two ladies being literally singing two ladies and having it being two men, I just love it. I love feeling unique in that way, adding to the story that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, with that number in particular, I mean, the way the show is written, it's so well done because they give you just enough truth and then they slip some fun in there. And then at the end of the fun, they say she wouldn't look Jewish at all. And then we go back to the truth. And then we're back to the fun. And then until it's at the end and we're just hitting you over the head with it. It's just so well, yeah.
You're all like happy-go-lucky until...
So well structured. Okay, so last question in this category, and we're going to move on. What do you feel thoughtful storytelling can teach the average theater goer?
I think a good example is also, I think one of my favorite moments in the show is when Fräulein Schneider sings to Sally and Cliff at the end, what would you do? And I think it's just perfectly sums up what this show is saying. And after an audience member has just sat and watched this entire show and then here's this woman sing this song, I think that perfect storytelling has to turn it on you where you're going, oh my gosh, yeah. Am I strong enough to stand up? Or would I just be like, I can't do it. And I think we're all in similar positions throughout our lives, whether it's political or relational. And I think it hits home, and I think Cabaret is that perfect example. And that moment, I think, really signifies that, where it really flips I think even though she's singing it, you're thinking about yourself in that moment. So
that's another theme that we were talking about themes of the show earlier, and that is, what would you do? Yeah, because I don't think most people would stand up to it. You know, I put myself, like, in 1929, I'm like, if I was alive then, what would I do? I can't say that I would have stood up to it. And that makes me want to cry right now saying that. Because it's a survival thing. Like, Jesus.
Yeah.
I just got serious.
Steven here. Yes, what you're saying about the year is very prevalent. However, I like to see the glass half full, generally speaking. And I think that in 2018, there is a larger number of people that would speak up and would stand up for what they think is right, as opposed to the traditional thinkers and societers, if you will, of that time period.
Yeah. Well, you have so many more ways to communicate now.
Right.
I mean, it's not just the standard issue Nazi radio that you had to trade in your actual radio for, which is what they eventually did across the whole country. Like, now you have all of these mediums to communicate. Ooh, I love theater. I just love theater. Okay, is there something you want to add?
Yeah, Steph here. I think also the brilliance of theater, as opposed to a lot of other mediums, and as opposed to like learning your history, is that it comes from a human like story. And so I think it's easier to feel empathy when you're seeing people go through an experience, like characters that, and I think the beauty of theater as opposed to like a movie or a TV is like you're actually feeling energy like go back and forth between the performers and the audience, and you're in like this like it's just a very emotional space. And I think you can learn all you want and be beat over the head with information about the Nazis and like pre-World War II Germany, but until you see people going through it in this imaginary world we created, I think that's the brilliance of the show. I think that's the brilliance of a lot of theater that has like, you can come out changed from a show. And I think that's why even people that don't do theater but go to the theater, everyone always looks forward to going to the theater. People, like, it is an event because something in you, whether you acknowledge it or not, but something in you gets touched and changed. And I think that comes from real, genuine human storytelling.
Yeah, it can change. You can be changed by seeing a show, by going to the theater. It can change your life. And I think it's interesting to not see so many people you did not see that. That was not on purpose. No, I swear to God, that was not on purpose. No, like, I don't think many people are walking out of the show. I think a lot of people are sitting through it. And it depends on your demographic and where you're performing the show, but I feel like a lot of people are staying through it to the end. So I think that's really great. Is there anything else anyone wants to add before we continue on? And we're continuing on. I want to talk about, so before we started, we were discussing like fortuitous, kismet, things happening for a reason, all of us being in this room together for a particular reason, whether we may know it or not yet. There's a reason why we have all met. It could just be the show, it could be more in the future. And I think it's so fascinating, in particular, because we're performers with auditions, nailing some of them and like butchering some of them. And more often than not, it's probably a gig you shouldn't have been in. And it sets you up for success because the reality is I believe that the universe is there for you. Life's happening for you, not to you. And I'm curious if anyone has any stories pertaining to auditions, favorite failures, or parents' failures that set you up for success. Does anything come to mind?
Our lives have been perfect.
Everyone's got no failures.
I think Steph here. Last spring, I was supposed to do Ado Annie in Oklahoma, which was a dream role of mine, and it directly conflicted with my best friend's wedding. And the movie, I just really wanted to see the movie. And there was only one day.
And that's it.
And I was in the wedding, and she's like a sister to me, and turning down that role was so hard. But I think that was a big life lesson of this is a career that is a lifelong career, and so you have to not get wrapped up in each audition and each contract, and that's going to change my life, whatever. And you also have to invest in your life and invest in your friendships and your partners and your family, because that's going to support you throughout this lifelong career. And I think that was the first time I ever had to decide between career and life, and I chose life, and it didn't kill my career. And it would have destroyed my relationship with my best friend, who's my maid of honor now. And you have to just learn life goes on. And it led me to doing stand-up and being I'm gonna start to try to control elements of this career, because I can't be at the whim of someone who's gonna tell me I can't be at a wedding.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I saw your video the other day. The stand-up video is it the Instagram story videos?
Yeah.
It's funny.
Thank you.
That's new.
I hope so.
Is that new? That's new for you?
Yeah, stand-up is new. Being funny is new in general.
Being funny in general is new. Was that just a whim of a thought? Or
no, it was because I was so frustrated that I wasn't performing. And I was sick of auditioning to just do what I love to do, and instead I could just write it, and getting a stand-up show is a heck of a lot easier than getting a theater show. And it's only 5, 7, 10 minutes I get to perform, but I get to fucking perform. Sorry, I don't know if you can curse on your podcast.
This is an adult show. Yeah.
But at least you're an artist, and every artist express themselves in different ways, and I never thought that was my expression way, but I discovered that is.
Yeah.
My chair made a sound. I didn't fart.
I do
she
comedy.
definitely did. No, I love that because that's where this podcast came from, is being sick and tired of just going to auditions. And I was like, I need to create something on my own. It's just the way it goes, though. It's the way it goes. Was there something you're going to slip in there?
On the failure side of things, yeah. Like the failure side that turns into something good is what we're talking about. A couple years back when I booked my first Broadway show, Dr. Zhivago, it was a horrible nightmare. It was just the worst flop. And it just wasn't a good show. And it was actually not that enjoyable either going through. Like, I met amazing people and I really enjoyed like the process, and it was exciting to be like, oh, I'm doing a Broadway show, yay. But there was so much like darkness surrounding it, just energy-wise and stuff, that it was not the most enjoyable experience in the world. Even though you think you're like, oh, Broadway, you know, and it was like, sucked that was the first experience for me. But we got our closing notice 2 weeks after we opened for 6 days later. And yeah, and on
closing notice 2 weeks after you open for
Correct.
6 days later.
Correct. So we ran the same amount of time as we would run for Cabaret. Except we did do 3.5 weeks of previews, yes. But still, it was like, as far as opening, it was only 3.5 or something weeks as well. So it was only like a total of 7 weeks. But anyway, yeah. But, so on the positive side, so the day we got our closing notice, it was in 6 days. The next day, my agent called and was like, Great Comet is coming back and they're doing ART for the out-of-town tryout and they want you. Can you do it? And I was like, yes, because I would have said no if it was the week before, because I thought I was in the Broadway show. I was just going to run. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be like, no, I'm good. I'm already doing a show. I'm not going to do an out-of-town tryout right now. I just started. And it was the following week, and it was like that, and I went there, and then that was a whole nother 2 years of great work and the best Broadway experience that you can have, you know, so.
That's incredible. I love stories like that. Oh, I love stories like that. How are you guys staying in the light in this polarized world of darkness and light?
Great failure.
What? Oh, that.
Great. I'm still in awe. Sorry.
Oh yeah, we can keep talking about it.
Moment.
No, it's good. It's good. Do you want me to? Did anyone have any answer to that question? Should I repeat the
What
question?
was the question?
No one's listening
No,
to
we're
you.
keeping it moving along here. How do you guys stay in the light in this polarized world of darkness and light? How do you stay positive?
Oh, Mark Ryan here. It's so individual. I mean,
yeah,
there are so many schools of thought and so many people saying like, yeah, you got to want it so bad and you got to hold yourself accountable. You got to run your own business. You got to do X, Y, and Z. And there's so much hustle in being a theater maker, artist of any type. There's so much hustle involved that you kind of start to pick and choose and prescribe your own methodology for how you don't end it all, honestly. Like, you're like, oh my God. Like, meditation is important for a ton of people. Religion is important for a ton of people. Me personally, like, exercise, I think we're preaching to the choir here. For most artists, exercise is that. A positive outlook, staying close to family, whatever it really is just sticking to your values in a time where you could be sticking to everything else because it presents itself to you, like drugs, alcohol, tons of coping mechanisms, especially in a metropolitan area like New York City. There's always something to distract, something to detract, something to make you forget the reason why you started. And I don't think there's an artist in here or that has any modicum of success that doesn't agree.
Yeah, and I'm asking this question because generally, and I'm sorry for anyone who doesn't fit this demographic, generally the listeners of this show are 26 to 35, female, in theater. And that wasn't an original thought in my mind, but that's what it's turned into. And I was reaching out to the listeners, and I was like, what do you guys want to hear more about? And they're like, well, it's great that you have, Billy Porter or Jonathan Groff, but like, they're Billy Porter and Jonathan Groff. I want to know someone in the heat, in the struggle, right here, right now, that's building their career. And how do you stay positive after a bad audition or after a day where it's just like the hot water is not working.
It never is.
Yes.
What did you say?
I said Schmackery's cookies.
Oh,
Everyone
yeah.
does that,
Oh,
right? After bad audition.
maple bacon.
Taylor here. I am staying in the light because a lot of bad auditions happen, or not getting seen happens, and you just sit in a waiting room for hours on end, and you're like, okay, that was my day, and you just go home, and you're frustrated, and you're like, I usually could do so much more with my day than sit in a room and to not be seen, like just sitting there, non-equity. I have a great group of girlfriends, so that keeps me in the light. It's a group chat. We're on each other's side, the biggest supporters. They're always rooting for you, but our conversation doesn't always revolve around the industry. And I think that's what's so important, because what drains me about the audition rooms in a non-equity holding room is that people are so desperate. And that's what's draining, is hearing them like, oh, I booked this, what are you doing next, what's going on? Like, stop talking about the show and just talk about life, because life happens outside of theater as well, and that's what fuels your theater. Like, you have to find an outlet outside. Like, for me, it is fitness, like Mark Ryan. I'm a huge fitness advocate, but like also just like spending time with friends, going to the park, and like hearing about their love lives, because I don't have one. And so just
Oh,
yes.
You guys can't see this.
I said
Stephanie just proposed to Taylor. Will she say yes?
But just having people having people on your side that are going through the same things that you're going through.
Yep.
But understand that it's not the end all be all. So I think that's really important, and that's how I've stayed sane in New York City.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Steven here. This is the third time you're going to hear this in the last, 3 minutes. But fitness is huge. I'm one of the only, people from my university where I went to school in Minnesota, my home state, that decided to make the move to New York City. And the way that I find light is through the communities of fitness, through the people that are bettering themselves every day just a little bit more. And that positivity is contagious, and it seeps into, parts of your brain and body and auditions and failures. It was topical a second ago. That, it empowers you, it lifts you up, and it's something you cannot do alone. And that's something you were talking about earlier, is your favorite moments in the shows. I was a little selfish, but everyone's favorite moment had something to do with someone else. Like, they can't do it on their own. Theater, you know this. I said I was going to speak in cliches. I said I was going to speak in cliches. Theater is a collaborative art form. Yeah. You can't do it by yourself. You can in some level and way, but in the way that we want it to happen, in the way that we love it, in the way that it fuels us, in the way that we interact with other audiences and family members and friends and communities, is through others. And so it's so important to find that thing that helps you stay in a community when you're in a new place, when you're in New York City, when you're in Los Angeles and you're not from there, or you are from there. So that's my 2 cents or
fitness.
10 cents.
Let's talk about fitness. Do you have something else you want to add?
I have one more thing to say to that.
Do it.
Everyone in New York City is working their ass off, and you should continue to. But eat the pizza and cry on the subway and sleep in some days and drink the wine and go home and visit your family. Do all the things you're not supposed to do sometimes. You have to. You're not a robot.
Yeah, it's true.
You're a robot. You're not a robot.
It's so true. My first year, I love that, because my first year, I was so blinded by just like open call.
Yeah.
And the second year,
because everyone's so competitive about it.
I can't go to the bar tonight.
Yeah.
I can't even go meet someone to go chat about whatever. I got to go to this open call. But I've made so many more friends and, dare I use the word, connections from drinking a beer at a bar with someone who's friends with someone who does something here.
Taylor here. I heard a quote, and a friend of mine said this the other day. You need to stop shooting on yourself. I should have done this. I should go to that audition. I should wake up early and shut up. Stop shooting on yourself.
Yeah, you just shit all over yourself.
Yep.
It's so true. No, you change. And there's another thing. I changed the word to I must. So if it's something I want to do, it's no longer should, it's must. I want to talk about fitness, though. I know all of us exercise here, and fitness is very, 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 very important, especially in theater. Did all of you guys, so anyone pick this up, when did you start working out? Was this something that you realized you needed to start working out? Is it something that was in your family? Like for me, it happened in college. I was like, oh, I actually need to go to the gym.
It's Jane. So my mom was an aerobics instructor in the 80s. Yeah, that's her. That is her.
Please tell me you have a photo.
I know. I freaking wish, man. Wait, fun fact also, Jane Fonda spoke at my graduation at UCLA. Anyway. She was like our speaker.
She's your namesake.
Yeah. And then I was like, I worship the ground you walk on. Actually, it was a very interesting speech. Anyway, so my mom, aerobics instructor, 80s, 5'8", beautiful blonde bombshell, and she definitely did like the French cut leotard and leg warmers. And I was just telling people this the other day, but I would always like come out of kids club at LA Fitness, and like they would like release the kids back to their parents, and I would like go up to my mom, who was the exercise instructor with the Britney mic, and I would sit on her shins, like I would hold her shins, and she would do abs with baby Janie like on her legs. And I thought that was just something all moms did. Like I was like, everybody exercises. And then I realized you have to really work hard at it. But I mean, it's that endorphins that we all need, the endorphins. And once I realized that when you grow up an adult, sadness comes and you need to like just do things to make yourself feel good. Like I was like, oh, that's why she did that. Oh, that's why she taught exercise, and like shared that with other people, you know, and then dance from there came from exercise.
Were you so bummed when sadness came? Like just suddenly one day?
Yeah, it was really sudden.
I was like, oh, what a downer.
I need to go do some sit-ups.
Yeah.
So anyone want to share their workout regimens? Do you guys follow any certain regimens, or is it just kind of?
I'll share mine. My parents were both fitness buffs, and Mark Ryan here. And damned if they didn't put me in every single sport they could, and I just didn't, nothing, man. Like I didn't gain a damn pound. Like I looked like, I wrestled in the 96 pound weight class, like well into high school. Like I was emaciated. But eventually, like for me, like it had less to do with like being an artist and being involved in theater. And it was more like junior year specifically of college for me. It was more like to be the kind of person I want to be the father and the son, and you know, to play in this world, to be who I see when I go to bed at night, when I imagine like big, strong, powerful, like adult Mark Ryan. I'm like, okay, oh shit, we have to get to work. So it just started sticking on junior year. For me specifically, I've played around with a ton of different regimens, and I would subscribe the same thing. I would say try anything, but with any regimen you're doing, stick to it for a while. You know, I would say give a good 3 to 6 months to any regimen. Like I was heavy on power lift, on the strong lifts, 5x5 stuff really early on, and that taught me the fundamentals of barbell weightlifting, like squats, deads, benches, the things that built a strong foundation for the stuff that I'm kind of doing now, like 8x8s, bodybuilding, lots of machine intermixed with free weight. And you know, you just got to play around. Like the best thing you could do for yourself, whether it's plyometrics, whether it's a sport, whether it's in the gym, the best thing you could do for yourself is have a sense of play and a sense of wonder, like you do on stage or in anything that you do. You need to keep that passion alive. So you're like, oh, what am I going to play with? Sometimes I'll just go sit down at a bench somewhere and just start repping out whatever someone left on there just for fun. Just like, oh, how much does this weigh? Yeah. Keep a sense of wonder. And then diet's a whole nother animal.
Yeah, we'll get to that too. I'm just so curious how everyone does it differently, because some people chill in the weight room and some people chill in the class, because I know there's classes in the city. I just sweat it off.
I have a little different, Taylor again, hi. So I am lucky enough that I am a fitness instructor and group fitness, so that is my regimen. I work out for a living and dancing. So going to class is another finding the light. I go to dance class for myself, not for a workout, but for sanity. And then I wake up really early in the morning. I can't start my day without a workout. I need to sweat before I do anything productive. I guess sweating is productive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like to do interval training, cardio mixed with strength training. I do like heavy lifting for what I can do. So and I'm not doing Mark Ryan heavy lifting, but yeah.
Not breaking any records.
Yeah, I don't know what any of those words mean, but I do like dumbbells. I like, high intensity interval training, mixing it up always, and then Pilates. I think for dancers, Pilates is very important to find your imbalances. So, yeah.
Yeah, good answer.
I'll chime in really quick, Stephen. High intensity interval training is what she just said, and that really rang a bell for me. I too work in the fitness scene in New York to stay sane and to have a little bit of money in my bank account each week when, the opening and closing dates approach. But I just think it's important to enjoy what you're doing when you're working out. If you're doing a workout and you're like, oh, if I have to do this another time, I'm going to shoot myself in the face, then maybe try something else. There's so many different things. Like Delaney was saying earlier about news outlets and ways to find information. There are so many different ways to find workouts and find ways to move your body and find the thing that works for you. There are fitness classes, there are individual things, there's CrossFit, there's Pilates, there's dance. It's just so, not concentrated. I don't know what the word I need is, but there's just so many different options. Yeah. And just find what you enjoy and then repeat it. And maybe you enjoy it for 3 to 6 months and then you're like, I need something else. The good news is you can find it. You can definitely find that other thing that is going to keep you motivated and excited. And even on a 2-show day, sometimes we go to the gym because it's like, yeah, you're about to do a lot as a performer, but if you open up that part of your body and get those endorphins pumping through your veins, then you're going to have that much more of an enjoyable day.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to get to it through a show for me once I've worked out, just because I've the blood's pumping and I'm really moving. Do you guys ever have the alarm go off in the morning and it's difficult to get up and you're like, I don't really want to work out today?
Unpopular opinions.
Those 6 a.m. classes never get easier.
How do you get yourself out of bed?
Well, I have.
Don't do 6 a.m. classes. That's why you just don't do them.
Well, I teach.
That's not
the guy who
We're
starved.
in theater. We don't get up in the morning. What are you guys talking about?
I teach
the
them.
earliest I ever see is 10 a.m. Gosh, what is happening?
Yeah. Well, when they pay the bills, when the 6 a.m. class pays me, then that's different. That's what motivates me to get out of bed. Because then I'm started and I'm ready for my 10 a.m. audition. So that's where the perks come in. But for my alarm clock, I have a mock sun. So my alarm clock is actually it mimics a sunrise next to my face, and then once it's time for me to wake up, birds start chirping, and so I wake up. Yeah.
And then the birds dress her.
It helps because
enough.
It's in those cold New York City winters when it's dark until 8 a.m. and I have to get on a train at 4:45. It's really hard to get out in the cold.
What brand is that? The clock?
Oh, I don't know. I got it on Amazon.
Okay.
I have no idea the brand, but they have a bunch.
Yeah.
They have a bunch. Yeah.
I love that. That's cool. No, I'm interested in the I'm interested in the self-talk because you have those days where it's up and down. Some days you're out of bed and you're like, I'm gonna kill this day. It's a 12-hour day and I'm gonna kill it. And then you have other days where it's just difficult to get out of bed. And on those days, I'm curious what gets you out of bed, if anything, or is it just a necessity to survive?
It's Steph here. My fiance and I had an acting teacher in college. And he would always, we'd be sitting on the floor, he'd give us our talk, and then he'd go, leaping up! And we'd have to just get up and go. And especially on difficult mornings, Ben and I will just, lay there and be like, that was the alarm. And then we're like, nope, leaping up. Because,
oh, you say it.
Oh, yeah. And we leap out of bed. Yeah, it's good.
That's incredible.
But you have to. And I've noticed for my own mental health, if I let myself lay in bed, if I press snooze, the rest of my day is cloudy and dark. And it's hard work to just get through that. And if I hear the alarm and I just literally leap out of bed and just start moving, then I'm like, all right, you conquered the first hurdle. Getting out of bed is like the hardest thing in the world. And once you've done that, they're like, wow, you could do so much today. You did it. You got out of bed.
I love that. I freaking love that.
This is Josh. I'm going to be really cheesy on the back of that really quickly. But honestly, anything can happen during a day. And that gets me up. And I know that sounds so cliche, but especially in our business, one day can change everything. I got a call.
Can you say that one more time?
Yes, in sexier and slower. Literally in our industry, anything can happen in one day. Just anything. And I remember, so I always come back to Comet because Comet was 4 years of my life and it was life-changing. But I got the call the day before for the audition the next morning that they needed an immediate replacement for the part off Broadway. I went in that morning, got a call back that afternoon, got the call that night to start rehearsal the next morning. 1 week later, I was playing the part opposite Philippa Sue off Broadway. So literally, it was one day. It was literally one day, and everything changed. When I went to bed the night before, it was just like, oh, I just have another audition tomorrow. That's just, but I got up, and everything changed after that.
Yeah, hang in there,
I
kid.
love that. It's showing up for your life is what it is. And I love that. Were you going to add something there?
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's fine. No, I just don't want to cut anyone off. And I asked this so particularly in morning rituals because morning really does make the whole day. And you guys as a whole, like the cast as a whole, and you know this from other casts you've worked with, this is such a fountain cast in terms of energy, not drains. You know, everyone's a fountain. And it's just so nice. And I'm so curious what each of you guys are doing.
That's amazing. Everyone's a fountain, not a drain.
Yeah.
That is the best. I want that on a coffee cup on a T-shirt. I will buy that immediately.
Did you do your required listening?
Fountain versus drain. That's good.
Yeah.
So I do want to say one thing really quick.
David Atkinson said that. I got to credit him.
Steven here, and I may have an unpopular opinion, but sometimes when I wake up, why should I wake up? Thank you, Bunam Ching. The first thing I look at is my phone, which is probably what most of us do in this world. And I look at Instagram and I see other people living their lives and I start to get a little jealous and I start to feel FOMO. And I go, dude, just get out of bed and experience life. Stop looking at it through your phone.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm yelling.
Let the hatred flow through you.
But that's, I mean, maybe it's not wise to like look at your phone the first thing you do when you wake up, but I do because it motivates me to like get the fuck out of bed and live.
Yeah.
So that I can start posting content and be like, this is my life. This is exciting.
No,
Yeah.
for real though. Like if I sleep till
Be jealous of me.
Oh, I'm so
Not
done.
be jealous of me, but just be in the race. Don't watch the race.
Yeah.
Participate.
Just join in.
Participate in the race that is life.
Yeah. No, I love that because God help me if I wake up at 9 a.m. in New York City and I see everyone up at 4, 5, 6, 7 a.m. I'm like, oh my God.
Thanks, Taylor.
Put me to shame. Do you guys have any daily texts you refer to? Like quotes or Bible verses or anything that you refer to daily? Does anyone in particular, anything come to mind?
Pictures of dogs.
Puppies.
Steph, here.
Okay.
There is no one way. There is no right path.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. No, it's true. It's true. Does anyone else have any they want to add? I'll keep moving on here.
I mean, there are, short aphorisms, texts. I love Jack London's creed, which I think a creed is so funny because it can change throughout your life. But it's just the one line from it, I would rather be ashes than dust, where he makes a creed to himself to just live his life completely. He does not want to be a, quote, sleepy and permanent planet. He will use his years. He ultimately did. He ultimately killed himself by overworking. But at least leading up to that, there is a lesson to be learned here. And then I love Bruce Lee's, there are no limits, only plateaus, and you must not stay there. Because if you do, that'll seep into every other section of your life. And I think that lesson is most readily applied through fitness, through things that you can palpably attain. Like you may be having a bad day or a good day, but like, oh, 100 pounds is always 100 pounds. I know based on that if I'm having a good day, if you're pushing your boundaries, your limits, and in every aspect of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Christian, so I always pray in the morning that God would give me strength for the day and that I would have favor. And that's just like a normal thing that I do. And that's what kind of, I guess, at the start of every day motivates me.
Yeah. It makes a difference too, though, when you give yourself, and this is the thing that I changed from my first year. I'd get up, I'd go to the audition, go to the gym, get the thing, and da-da-da. And now I like wake up and I give myself 10 minutes to like, what do I want in the next 6 to 12 months? What am I grateful for? As simple
It's so important.
As simple as like the apple I ate the night before. It's like when you start to appreciate like the fact that electricity is going through the switch every time you turn it on in this country, like those little things we take for granted, it changes your whole day. Yeah.
This is going to sound kind of stupid, but I'm Delaney. No, but like if I feel like really crappy one day, like bad audition, like something like that, I read through like my old birthday cards from like my mom or my sister.
That is not stupid.
It just makes me feel so much better. Yeah.
Yeah, I do that with emails from my mom from
See,
college.
like-
I'll scroll through.
Yeah.
Don't delete them. No, it makes a difference. No, I don't delete them. I'm saying I need to delete
and then I delete them.
And then I get rid of them. No, it's just like, it's that kind of stuff. Those things you maybe take for granted occasionally when you're waiting all day at an audition or something. It's just like, yeah, that's a good answer.
I also know for me, this is back to Josh, that when I'm like wanting to complain or the mornings I don't want to get up or bad audition or feeling pain in my kidney or something like that, I literally think about someone who's in a worse position than I am, and I start praying for them and sending them good thoughts. And then it immediately lifts me up because I'm focusing on someone else and not myself. And for me, throughout the day, I do that consistently because any time I want to complain and be like, oh, I hate doing this, I'm like, or I could not be working. And I'm going to be thankful that I'm working,
Steph here, to piggyback off that, sometimes I literally will just pat myself down and I like have to like physically touch like all my limbs and just be like, I have 2 legs and I have 2 arms. I have lungs that work. I have a brain that functions. And I just at my very base am much more fortunate than other people in the world. And I can do anything with just this body.
That's right.
And like, then just be grateful for that. And then also I think as artists, we are people that kind of like, we live to perform, we live to entertain, we live to give. And I think by giving, and especially during audition season, is a time when I really like to do charity. Because that is just a way to, it's not about you. Like, we're not curing cancer. We're giving our souls and everything, which is great, but just do something else. Get out of your head. And get into someone else. Or for that day, set your intention for that day of like, I'm gonna call my mom today, or I'm gonna call my grandma today, and like lift them up. And after those conversations or those experiences, you will feel so much better.
So good. I'm telling you, gratitude is key.
Everything.
And like what you focus on, you find. It's that being grateful for the limbs. It's like all of a sudden, the train being delayed doesn't matter as much. It doesn't, because you're like, oh shit, I'm alive.
And you can, and we're not saying, for those of you listening, like, you can't ever complain, you can never have a bad attitude, and like, we go through times where it's just like
we are
frustrating, but this is just like an overall life thing.
No, I think it's interesting though. Like,
don't get down on yourself if you like yell or something one time.
No, and you need to, and I don't want this to come off like this cheesy, like all of us are just really grateful. Why are
got our shit together here.
I mean, we go through the range of emotions. I think it's interesting though. We go through the range of emotions. I think it's interesting, though, how you just start your day. Because then when you cry, when you get upset, when you're ungrateful, whatever comes up, it's just more varied. You're not reacting. You're just responding. Were you gonna?
Yes,
jump in?
This is Jane. So I'm certain, since these are podcast listeners, that some people here hopefully have heard of My Favorite Murder, which is my favorite podcast. And it is like kooky and about true crime and things like that. But these women are so empowered and so socially aware, and they spread the stories about they empower victims of trauma and things like that. So just how you said, anything can happen in the day, a day can change everything. They'll tell these really horrifying stories that really happened, but it's all to bring it around to social safety and awareness and things like that, and that there is light in the world when so many dark things happen. And so their slogan and something I look at every day and listen to them every day is "Stay sexy, don't get murdered," that's their slogan. Stay sexy, don't get murdered. And all the murderinos out there are screaming it back at me from their podcast right now. But I just think it's such a funny thing to put those sentences back to back, stay sexy, be empowered, dark things are gonna happen. Don't get murdered is the second half. So it's bad things happen out in the world, but just stay aware, stick together, believe in yourself, and then be that positivity out in the world.
Yeah.
If I may, Stephen here, what Josh was saying earlier, I think is so important, and I would place it in a couple different words, which is, you know what? I just completely lost my train of thought.
Wait, that's what you would say, or
no,
you actually just lost your train of thought?
And then he found $5.
Isn't that magical how it happened?
That was incredible.
The second you have the
it'll come back to me.
Oh
or
my
not.
goodness. Okay, so as we're wrapping up here, because we've been going for a hot minute, haven't we? Do you guys have any book recommendations? Any books you read? Books that stand out in your mind? A book that you gift? Anything that come up?
For artists, Big Magic was really awesome, and I am not a person who journals, and I journaled while reading that and discovered a lot about myself as an artist and what is holding me back, and also what I want to do with my art. Also, The Alchemist is amazing. I mean, I think that's everyone's read it. But it's everyone's favorite book for a reason, and it's you just kind of.
I read that for the first time last year.
Isn't it? It's so fucking amazing. Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah, those two. Those are good.
I don't have a book, but I remembered what I was going to say. May I say
it? Do it.
So we were discussing earlier about how, we do experience bad days and horrible things and scream and shout and punch and, all that stuff. But I think, if I may, what we're all sort of trying to say is you have to find your neutral. You have to find where you are on a daily basis, regardless of what is impacting you and what you're reacting to. And I think that's so important as an actor, as a performer, to find your neutral, find where you gravitate to when you are not booked, when you can't find an audition that will give you a chance, when you're going through your own personal turmoil with relationships, with family, with whatever it is. How do you, like Mark Ryan was saying, cope? And how do you find, positivity? And it's just so important to find, I can't stress it enough, find your neutral. Because everything else, yes, there's going to be extremes. There's going to be highs and there's going to be lows. But you have to find where you gravitate to. And I think that's what we were all saying. I'm seeing some nods.
Yeah.
So
where do you wake up?
That's
how do you wake up? What's your neutral?
Yeah.
I really like that. That's great. Okay.
I'll write a book someday called What's Your Neutral?
Yeah, speaking of neutral, books.
Life is a cabaret. What is your neutral? Books? Anyone else?
Yes,
books?
please. Mark Ryan here. Gosh, speaking of finding your neutral, finding your basis. I mean, theater is for words, film is for visuals, and books are direct link into the mind of another person, which is a form of empathy that we employ on stage. I really like Iron John. Applicable to everyone. I love the works of Stephen Pressfield. Most people know The War of Art, Turning Pro, that kind of stuff, but he also is a wonderful historical fiction writer. Gates of Fire, The Virtues of War, really, really good stuff like Sparta, Alexander the Great. Applicable lessons. But I think my mostest favoritist book is by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, who is a really popular writer right now. His big book in the Anti-Fragile series is based on probability and randomness. It's called The Black Swan. It's a book without genre. Do yourself a favor. There's a book that he has just released this last year called Skin in the Game, which just really it defines any form of genre. I can't explain the type of book it is, but it's not like House of Blue Leaves, like a scary story or anything, but if you're interested in kind of the way you perceive events as they relate to your life, especially as it pertains to actors, when you try and think of your life in terms of statistics and, oh gosh, like, am I ever going to make it because of X, Y, and Z? Like, we do a lot of work with probability and randomness in our field, and I got a lot of peace of mind and a lot of tools moving forward in that regard from that book.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I haven't read it. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Oh, it's so good.
Who wrote it?
Nassim Nicholas Taleb.
Okay, cool.
Really good guy. He was a stock market turned flaneur, which is a guy who sits in cafes and reads.
You can do
It's
that.
the best
actually.
job
Work in
ever.
the stock market.
Yeah, flaneur. It's a French
girl.
word. Flaneur.
I'm not going to give you a spiel. It's Delaney, but I'm mid Ishmael right now, and it's a great book, and everyone should read it.
Okay.
Peace out.
Deuces.
Great. No, this is great. This is great. Anyone else? We good. Guys, this has been a wonderful conversation.
It has.
Thanks for sitting down. Let's go through one more time. Name, role, so people don't have to go back to the beginning, and where they can reach you. / also anything that's upcoming, anything you're working on in the city, anything, plug away.
All right, I'll start. Stephen Grant Douglas here, play Cliff in Cabaret. You can find me at Stephen G. Douglas on Twitter and Instagram. For the first time in my young career, I know that I'm going to be doing something while I'm doing something, which is amazing. I'm going to be performing in the regional premiere of a new musical that's written by Bruce Valanche, who is has kind of some Hollywood fame, so I'm kind of excited about that. And it's called A Sign of the Times, which will be at Delaware Theater Company this fall.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
1960s jukebox musical with a great book. I mean,
That's cool.
yeah, some of the stories, characters speak volumes. So I'm excited about that one.
Sweet.
Hi. Taylor Habershaw from Fritzy from the ensemble. I will be doing flash dance here next at Cabaret, or at Gateway.
Following Cabaret.
with some other ensemble members here. And you can find me on Instagram at Taylor Habershaw. And I also teach at AKT Fitness. It's dance cardio-based interval training, so it's really fun workout if you want to come.
And it's a bitch of a workout.
Yeah,
she did
Clay
it for
has
us
done
one
it.
day. It was made me feel
It's
all
fun.
sorts of
We use a
tired.
disco ball, so in studio.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to come check that class out in the city.
Yes, you
I
will.
bet it's just like the whole thing. It's immersive.
It is.
And sweaty.
I'm Stephanie Israelson. You can find me on Instagram at Steffi, S-T-P-H-Y, Israelson, like the country. And up next, I got a stand-up show in September. So
Where?
At Greenwich Village Comedy Club.
I'm gonna have to come to this.
Yes, come. And then we can all get dough, the edible cookie dough after.
No.
Trying to get you a sponsorship here.
Yes.
Clay, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, not a problem.
Appreciate it. Wait, hold on. One more thing. When are you getting married?
Oh, Cinco de Mayo 2019.
Yes, we got to talk about it. We had to talk about it. So.
Yeah.
Okay, for a second. She's
We're
getting married.
registered at lavienrosenbach.com, so if you want to buy me presents.
Yes!
I am also registered, and I would like gifts, please. I am not getting married. I
This
just
is
want
Jane.
gifts. Thank you.
Jane. Yes, Jane. Her Venmo is. No.
Yeah.
Cool. This was fun, guys. I didn't say much, but I am going to say one thing. Oh, this is Lauren Renahan. I played Helga. I'll get back to that in a second. But back to books. Delaney just said Ishmael. Daniel Quinn, if you want nonfiction, and I think every human being needs to read this book. It's called Beyond Civilization by Daniel Quinn as well. But yeah, I have an Instagram, and it is my name, and it's LAURENRENAHAN. Next up for me is August 23rd. I'll be singing at the World Trade Center with a band called Midtown Stacks. And then that same evening, I'll be singing at Mandalay Bar at the McKittrick Hotel, home of Sleep No More, at 10 p.m. Both shows are free, so feel free to come and
What day
get
is
your...
this?
This will be Thursday night, August 23rd.
Cool. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Hello. Mark Ryan Anderson here. Thanks for listening. I play Victor in this show, and that wraps the 18th. And a few days after that, I'm flying out to Washington State to the North Bend Film Festival, right around Snoqualmie Falls for the Twin Peaks fans. We'll be doing an immersive theatrical experience from one of the creators of Sleep No More's medium character. So she is directing a show called The Awakening of Annabelle Lee, which is a spiritual immersive show, and we'll be showcasing a virtual reality experience at the film and then a special in-person immersive performance somewhere in the town.
That's
so
awesome,
if you want more information on that, there's northbendfilmfest.com.
And did you do your Insta? Did I miss that?
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram with a quick search. But I like Insta most of all, and that's at Mark Ryan Anderson.
Sweet.
I'm Jane, and I play Lulu. And my Instagram is Janie Papageorge, JANIE PAPAGEORGE. I know it's hard and long. It's 10 letters, and it's Greek, and nobody understands me. I have something coming up, but I cannot confirm it right now, so just stay tuned on the Insta.
Yes.
And yeah, I like to have a little air of mystery around me, you know? And I was going to say something else, so I can't remember now, but stay sexy, don't get murdered. Bye.
Love that.
Hi, it's Delaney Love. I'm on Instagram at Delaney Love with an extra E on the end. And I will be performing in Flashdance at Gateway after this. Yeah.
Get that bump.
This is Josh Canfield, and I play the MC, and my Insta and Twitter handle is It's Josh Canfield, ITSJOSHCANFIELD. It's Josh Canfield. And coming up next is doing a workshop of a show that I wrote called Alive, the zombie musical. So that's happening in September, and it's going to be exciting. So
You said that's a reading? Or is it?
It's a week, 29-hour reading or a workshop. I haven't decided yet.
Can you take my headshot? Do you I want to be in a zombie.
Yeah. So
that's
in.
Cool.
I cannot say who's directing it on here yet. No, because I haven't announced it.
Now, is it too soon to ask? Is this going to be like a closed reading thing, or is it going to be you're going to have?
It's going to be a closed reading. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there will be people who will come to the reading, but invite only. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry about
That's so cool. I didn't know you wrote that. I mean, we heard one of your songs the other night at the campfire that you wrote, and it was great.
Oh yeah. That's just like That's just like
I want to hear music from this musical now, but it's all secret. We can't hear yet. Eventually. All right, guys. Thank you so much for sitting down with me. This has been an absolute riot.
Thank you for having us.
This is great. Ladies and gentlemen, the cast of Cabaret.
You've been listening to Entertainment X, the podcast. You can follow Entertainment X on Instagram at _EntertainmentX_. If you haven't yet, go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. Join Clay next week for another curiosity conversation on Entertainment X. Thank you for listening.